welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today we are doing my current all-time favorite fantasy series that are completed. Hear me out. I am calling them all-time favorites, but the current is in there for the disclaimer that these will change. I am a firm believer that there is always a better book out there, and I want to believe that because I don't want to think that I've already read all of my favorite books. I want to continually believe that I'm going to be finding new favorite books and favorite series, so I'm hoping that these change. When I find a book that makes it onto this list, it makes me so excited. And that's not to say that these books don't deserve this spot on here as they change, but I just think it shows reading taste and how reading tastes change and grow and adapt over the years. So I'm hoping to update this list yearly and just show you like the changes that happen from it. It will be in a top 10 order, but I'm not gonna lie, I have literally chicken scratch on here from like changing things to different places over the last couple days. So depending on my mood, the order of these things could change like a spot or two, but I think it's pretty standard to where they fit and where they feel in my favorite books. And I think you guys also will be able to know most of the books on this list and how I feel about them. I'm pretty vocal about books I love. This was a little bit harder than I thought it was, just because like I only want to do completed series. There are series that I expect to make it on this list that just aren't done yet or that I haven't finished yet. So some honorary mentions to the Scholarman series by Naomi Novik. I adore this series, but I haven't finished it yet. I still need to read the last book. The Burning series by Evan Winter, like this is a 4-book series, and it's just not done yet, so I've only read the first 1 and 2, but this will be on my list. Like this is one of my favorite reads I've ever read, both 1 and 2, so like I know this will one day make it onto this list quite high up. The Book of the Ice, I still need to read the last book, but it is a pretty big contender for this list. I think that's all I'm going to mention right now. These are like my strongest 3 contenders that one day could make it on this list, but I'm sure there are other ones out there that I've only read like 1 book of, but these are like, I'm waiting on the final books essentially, or like strong feelings. Okay, so let's get into the list. Let's start with number 10. Number 10 is actually a series that I know will somehow, number 10 is a series that I know will fall off this list in soon times just because of the age demographic of it, but it is a series that I absolutely adore and think deserves a spot on this list because of the feelings I had for it, which is The Red Queen Quartet by Victoria Aveyard. I don't read a lot of YA anymore, although this is not the only YA series on this list, but I do have intense emotional connections to this series. I binged this series over like 3 weeks. I was an adult when I read it too, I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is one of the last series I read as I phased out of my YA lovingness. And I'm here to tell you that like I don't hate YA. It's just like something I don't gravitate towards as much because I like the way that stories are told more in adult, and I like the deeper conversations we have. But YA characters have a grip on my heart because YA characters are written in such a like way that just like sucks you into the story, and I think the Red Queen Quartet does this so well. Interesting enough, I hate the end to Warstorm. I gave Warstorm 2 stars, but like the series overall has one of my favorite villains, one of my favorite characters. I'm just obsessed with it. It has a place in my heart. I will probably never get rid of these because I love them. If you're looking to get into high epic adult fantasy, I actually think starting with the Red Queen Quartet is a great way to go. I think that Victoria Aveyard sprinkles in things that you see in adult high epic fantasy, like those sprawling epic fantasies that are like 10 books long. You see in her quartet, she focuses on the world building and the magic systems along with the characters, and we do have a YA romance, so like be warned, there is a YA romance, but I do think it's such a wonderful like stepping stone from YA to adult epic fantasies. This follows Mare Barrow, who is a red. What this means is that she has red blood. These are like the peasants. They do all the hard work. She doesn't live a best life. And then there are silver blood in this world, which is the royalty, and they have magical abilities. But the red never have magical abilities until Mare Barrow realizes that she might have a magical ability at the absolutely worst time to figure it out. And I'm just here to say Maven Kalor has my heart. That's all. In the 9th spot, it is a series that I do not own physically, but it is the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams. This is a series that, as time goes on, I love more and more and more. I forget the little nitpicky things I had that made it not a 5-star read for me, and remember the things I did love about it. Because book 1 I gave 5 stars, book 2 I gave 4 stars, and book 3 I gave 3 stars. Most of my complaints were that there were stray things. It wasn't like a Sanderson type fantasy novel where every little stray comment was ever like put back together in the puzzle. There are things that are left unfinished, but that is just me being used to how like Sanderson writes his books versus how a lot of people write their books. I don't think it was ever meant to be that way, and I think that is something that I can appreciate the more I like look back on the series. 1, this has amazing characters. 2, it has some of the best animal companions I've ever read. I adored the animal companions in this. They come in the second book and they are so well done. I think that there's a really cool and epic world in this. Like, the world building is so unique, and I just really overall adored this. If you don't know, the Winnowing Flame trilogy starts with Ninth Reign, and we follow a world where every couple years this alien species comes and rains down on the planet, looking to like eat it whole, destroy it. That's all it wants to do, is just like leave nothing left alive. And we have the vampire like god creatures and their beasts that come and save the day. Something happened in the last reign, and now the vampires are no longer immortal and they don't have any beasts. So what happens when the 9th reign comes and these aliens are gonna come try to destroy the earth? How is humankind gonna survive without our vampire heroes? And it is so intriguing, and I really, really loved the world in this, so I definitely highly recommend picking this one up. Number 8 is the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. I don't think this is surprising for anyone who loves high epic fantasy. We see Mistborn on a lot of these lists, and there's a reason. It's just really well, incredibly done. It is what introduced me to a hard magic system, and I will forever thank it for having such a hard magic system with rules and concrete laws, because that made my logical brain so happy and go, this is what I want from fantasy. This series did change my outlook on what I look for in fantasy. I want things to make sense. I want plot threads here to matter here. And now that doesn't make or break a series for me, but is something that makes a series stand out for me, is having things connect later on, having comments not just be one-off comments. So Mistborn really like changed my reading for me, and I think it really just does deserve a spot on this list. I think I tend to like give more love to people who don't need it as much. I think everybody who watches epic adult fantasy booktube knows that Brandon Sanderson is great. Brandon Sanderson is incredible, and I normally talk about Elantris more than I talk about Mistborn. I don't also own Mistborn because I love the like tall floppy paperbacks and I want them one day. But Mistborn follows our characters who go on a heist to take down the big bad. This is essentially written as if, what if the big bad won? And we now have to take down the big bad now. Like, the big bad is ruling our world currently, and we don't want that. So we gotta take him down and get rid of him. We also just have, like, the coolest magic system. We have these people who ingest certain metals that do certain things. So you ingest copper and you can do this certain magical ability. Most people can only ingest one metal, but some people can ingest them all, and they are called Mistborns, and our main character obviously is a Mistborn, and it just is like a really awesome story, and I just loved what it made my reading, and I think that's truly why it deserves a spot on this list. And the number 7th is the War Eternal series by Rob J. Hayes. I also don't own this physically. This series I read this year, and I binged it, and Eska is one of my favorite characters. One of my favorite friendships of all time happens within this series. I love the connection between Eska and this person. I don't want to tell you anything about it because it's kind of a spoiler, but I've never had two characters carry a story so much for me the way that Eska and this friendship did, and without them, like, there is a book where we do not have this friendship, and that book slogged for me compared to the other because I just wanted those friendship moments back, and I think my strong feelings for Eska is what makes this such an incredible series for me. I don't think it's the most well-written series to ever exist. I don't think it's a perfect series, but I think it's a series that is fun and has beautiful conversations on mental health rep and has such like interesting takes on things. I found Rob J. Hayes writing so deep in this and like inspiring, and the comments he makes about things and the way he writes a female protagonist is amazing. Like, I've never felt more like we have a badass female protagonist, like badass, and she is loyal to a fault, and she's petty, and she's gonna say F the world, but she's also going to protect her friends, and she's gonna do what she needs to do at the end of the day, and I found Eska very relatable for that. The War Eternal series follows Eska, who is a sorceress, and she is on one empire, and they are fighting another empire, and they go at war, and Eska waves the white flag and goes, I don't want to die, and so Eska is kidnapped, put into the pit where they put their, like, dangerous criminals, and she has to get out, and she swears vengeance. And I do love a vengeance story. That's for sure. I definitely do. The War Eternals is a 5-book-long series, although to me it reads like a trilogy and then a duology because there is a time jump between book 3 and book 4. Book 3, I loved. I wanted to say it was my favorite book I've read this year, but it's not, because there's another one on this list that is, but it's up there. I really, really adored my time in this series. I adore the world building and the characters. There's a really cool magic system in this with, again, ingesting your sorcery magic, and I apparently really like something that's ingested. I think there's a very, like, science take to the magic system in here, which I really like. Again, those hard magic systems. I like my rules. One I actually own. In 6th spot, we have the Burning Blade and Silver Eye trilogy by Django Wexler, which starts with Ashes of the Sun, but these two are bangers too. I'm going to put these back up here. I don't like the way it looks, so that can just pop out. This was a series that I read last year, and I fell in love with how fun this series was, and again, the two characters in it I thoroughly enjoyed. In this, we're following our two characters, two siblings, Geyer and Maya, who are separated when they are quite young. Maya is 5 years old and taken away from her family to go be raised in the Empire because she has some kind of sickness, some kind of magical ability that they can help her with. Geyer then hates the Empire for what he does to their family, for taking away his sister, and ends up working for the rebellion. So we have two siblings on opposite sides of the rebellion. I thought this was just such a fun series to read. I had a lot of fun reading it, and I think that there is some really interesting takes on, like, the mirrorism of our character arcs that I really enjoyed. I don't think that this is a series for everyone, as it reads quite new adult. We do have young protagonists, but I think if you're just looking for a fun read that still has some, like, really cool magic in here, it is based off Star Wars. My friend Rachel calls it gay fantasy Star Wars. There's a sapphic relationship in this, and, like, the author himself has said this is based off Star Wars, and you can see it if you're a big Star Wars fan, but if you're not gonna see it. It is there, but, like, it's not prominent. It's not gonna take away from your enjoyment if you don't like Star Wars. It stands on its own, and I just, like, I had a lot of fun, and I enjoyed these characters a lot. And number 5 on this list is the Daevabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. I don't own City of Brass. Well, I do. It's just lent out to a friend. This is such an incredible story. This is just a beautifully, beautifully woven story. This is one of the first books I recommend to people. It's beginner fantasy friendly. If you are looking to get into adult fantasy, I always suggest the Daevabad trilogy. This is a series that is inspired by Middle Eastern lore and mythology, and we follow the city of Daevabad. Within this, we follow two characters. We follow Nari, who is a human who lives in, I think it's 18th century Cairo, but I'm not entirely sure, like, if that's the right time, but she does live in, like, old Cairo, and she accidentally ends up using magic, and then she has these big bad creatures on her case, and she has a Deva come to save her. She quickly learns that she's actually the last member of the ruling family of Daevabad's line that they did not know existed. So she is taken back to Daevabad, and that causes a whole lot of problems because there is a current king currently ruling Daevabad who is not from that, like, bloodline. Then we have Ali's POV, who is the second son to the current king of Daevabad, and he doesn't always believe in what his dad says, and I think there's just, like, a lot of, like, challenging beliefs in this series that I really enjoyed. And we have two characters who aren't afraid to stand up for themselves, aren't afraid to challenge those beliefs, ask the hard questions, do the hard things, and that's something I really respect in a character. I think it's just, like, very honest to humankind and what, like, I would want to be in the situation, or how I at least would hope I would be. And I think that this is just such a beautifully well-crafted series, and it's so rich in that Middle Eastern lore, and it's incredible. I highly recommend it. One of my favorite series, obviously. And number 4 on the list is the Live Ship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb. This could not have existed without these. I love this series so much. It is my favorite series in the realm of the Elderlings. I'm not a Fitz fan. I know, unpopular opinion, Fitz drives me insane, but the live ship family, these traders, they have my heart. I am with them. I just felt like the expansiveness of this world was something incredible and something I hadn't read before at this moment in time when I had read these. And I also loved the experience of being on the boats and learning some of that stuff. I keep looking for a good, like, on the water on a boat fantasy, and I haven't been able to find one since this. As addictive as morphine. 100%. I agree. That's from the Times. This series follows the Vestrit family, who has a live ship. What a live ship is a boat that when 3 generations of your family line die on the boat, and the blood, like, seeps into the boat, the live ship quickens, which means it comes to life, and is its own, like, kind of being. Like, it can, now it's faster, and can think for itself, and, you know, do all, like, the things that a normal boat couldn't do. And we have the Vivacia, who is about to undergo her quickening when Althea, Vestrit's father, passes away. Althea thinks that she is going to get to be captain of the boat, but when her father passes away, he ends up giving it to his sister's fiancé, and that makes Althea very angry, but she's a woman, and women are not supposed to be the captains of a boat. They're not even really supposed to be on the boat. This series really discusses a woman's purpose in life, and it challenges the beliefs of a place like this, where it would be like, women get married, they do those things, they raise a family, and they're not allowed to have these big dreams about being a captain and doing all those things. I think the series challenges that in so many ways, and it's something I truly loved about this series. It is a slow burn, a slow build, but I think the characters in this series are chef's kiss. Althea, I love. Malta has been one of my favorite characters from the beginning, and, like, people hated Malta in book 1, but I found her such a challenging character. Like, she was challenging to the people around her, but also challenging to the narrative and challenging to the story, and I love a character like that. If you couldn't figure this out, like, a lot of my favorite characters are a younger female protagonist who is spiteful and out to get the world because the world is out to get them, and they're willing to put their foot down and say, no, I want to do this. I'm going to challenge your perception of me and what I should do and what I'm capable of and prove you wrong. My favorite type of character often comes in a young female, but sometimes comes in, like, Tao, who is not a young female. Yeah, so I absolutely adore this series and highly recommend reading it. I mean, I love the Realm of the Elderlings too, but this is definitely my favorite part of Realm of the Elderlings. And number 3 on this list is the newest part of this list, and I was honestly just waiting to complete this series before putting this video out because I knew it was going to be pretty high up on this list, as I just adored the first 2 books. But we have the Aurelian Cycle by Rosaria Munda. This is a YA series, but please don't let that hold you back. As someone who constantly says that I'm over reading YA, I read this year and fell in love, was obsessed, cannot recommend more. Like, just please read it. It has, yes, it has the characters of a YA series, those characters that you fall in love with and that, like, pull on your heartstrings so much and that you just want to see succeed, but with the tones and themes of an adult story, and it's chef's kiss. Fireborn follows 2 characters, Annie and Lee. What happens in this series is the old regime was just overthrown, and we're watching our 2 new characters grow up in this new regime. They are orphans, and they become best friends quite early on, and as they grow older, they learn that they came from different places in life. Lee is a son of the old regime. He should have been one of the ruling families. He has, like, the bloodline in him to, like, rule in this world, and Annie is one of the peasants. She was a serf. She was looked down upon by people like Lee, and so they have an unlikely friendship throughout this as they train to be dragon riders. And as they get older, they realize that they are not on the level footing that they thought they were meant to be. In this new regime, it's supposed to be equal. Everybody gets a chance, all of this, but the privilege that Lee has gone through puts him a little bit higher than Annie, and Annie's always working harder. And it just is such a beautiful book and series. And this will also just, like, change your perspective on things constantly. Like, there are characters who you hate but then love and then hate, and there is moments that you're yelling at characters and cheering on characters. There is moments that I felt bad for the bad guys. There were moments that I felt angry at the good guys. Like, what are you doing? You're being so stupid. I just think that this is always questioning and, again, just like forcing me to rethink my opinions, my beliefs, forcing the people around them in this world to rethink their opinions, their beliefs, and it's just such an incredible book. The characters in this story are some of the richest, most well planned out, well written characters I've ever read. I feel like I could walk outside and talk to any of them. Power in this is one of my favorite characters I've ever read from. I think he has one of the strongest character arcs of a character I've ever read. He's a character that is willing to question my sanity at times, because I'm like, why am I cheering for you? But he always ended up making me feel like he was such a real character in a story like this. A selfish person with their own motives, but also willing to do what he has to do to survive, and so good. And like Annie and Lee just together, so good. Also the animal companions, the dragons in this, the dragon riding, chef's kiss, incredible. This series talks about trauma in such an incredible way. It's talking about power corrupting in an incredible way. It's talking about how like the right thing isn't always the good enough, challenging the way you think at all times. Something I apparently really like in my books, and I cannot recommend this series more. I need to reread it. It's so good, and please pick it up. The next is a series I talk about often. So in second place, we have the Book of the Ancestor series by Mark Lawrence, which starts with Red Sister. Grey Sister is my personal favorite in the series. You know what's interesting is how this series stands as my second favorite series, but is not a series that I gave all of the books 5 stars to. In fact, the only book that got 5 stars was Grey Sister. These were both 4 stars from me. But it is a series that has just implemented into my brain how much I loved and adored it. It is a character I constantly think about going back to. As someone who doesn't really reread, I joke about rereading all the time. This is a series that I know at one point in my future, maybe soon, maybe later, I will reread. This series follows Nona Gray, who ends up at the convent of Sweet Mercy, which is a school for assassin nuns. There is a magic system in this that is really cool that involves the path, and the training system for Nona I think is really cool, watching her go through the path training, but like the warrior training, and watching Nona become the character that she becomes at the end of this series. I think it's just something that I really, really adored. Nona was the first character for me that I read that like I attached to. She was the first, I think, young female protagonist that I read that was willing to question where she stood in the world, and I just fell in love with Nona and that character type in the end. Like, if I hadn't read Book of the Ancestor, would I ever realize how much I loved that type of character? I don't think so. We have a character who is petty and angry and loyal at all times. Like, the friendships that Nona makes are incredible and she's loyal to them, but she's also not afraid to stand up for herself and the people that she believes in. She's not afraid to be a powerful young woman, and she's not afraid to have people fear her or hate her or things, because she is who she is and she's proud of it, and I obviously love that in a character. As I've made this top 10 list and talked about all the reasons why these are my favorite books, I think I may be a character-driven reader. There are side characters in this that I think are so well fleshed out, Sister Apple being one of them, and I just really liked the way the series was even set up, with Red Sister being year 1, Grey Sister being year 2, and then Holy Sister being year 4. We do skip year 3 in between, but it's not a big deal. I just think Mark Lawrence is incredible. Like, this is so good. So good. Definitely please read The Book of the Ancestor. One of my favorites. And probably, to nobody's surprise, my number 1 favorite completed series at this moment in time, and probably for a really long time, is the Poppy War Trilogy by R.F. Kuang. Does Rin not check all of the boxes for what I've told you guys about what I like in a character? The Poppy War Trilogy follows Rin, who is a dark-skinned peasant orphan from the Rooster Province. She is not going to amount for much in life, so she ends up trying to take this test that if you pass within like the first like 1%, like get the highest marks, you can get a free scholarship to this military training academy that trains the elite students. And Rin takes the test, and she proves that she can do it. She passes with flying colors, and she goes to the academy. And from there, Rin has to deal with a lot of racism because she is a dark-skinned peasant girl from the Rooster Province. She is not meant to be there. This is for like the high class the rich, the people who have been given all of the privilege to help themselves succeed and didn't need this free scholarship, or the scholarships that happen within this. This Rin has to deal with so much prejudice at this school, and it is just an incredible series. The first half is a military school, but the second half is in Rin, in war, learning what war's like. And then we continue into the Dragon Republic, war, and the Burning God. Lots more of war. The ending of the series is one of my favorite endings. I think it was incredibly well done and felt very fitting for all of our characters. Rin is very unlikable to a lot of people, but I absolutely adored Rin, as I think that she makes stupid decisions, but decisions that make sense for her character, and decisions that I can understand why she's making, even though they are stupid. And, this series is dark. It's not afraid to go there. It makes you change your perspective. Some parts of the series are based on real life events, things that happened in our history, and that makes them hit even harder when you know what those scenes are and how real they are, and how they are pretty much word for word what we as humans did to other humans. And it's heartbreaking, but incredible. And words do not explain how much I love this series. Yeah. Chef's kiss. Incredible. Rin. Incredible. There we have it. Those are my 10 favorite completed fantasy series at this moment in time. As I said, I'm hoping these change. I want them to change. I think it's quite incredible when they change, because like the Aurelian Cycle is a series that would not have been on this if I had done it last year. But it is number 3 now. I'm always reading more things, incredible things. Authors are giving me the stories I want. If you have any recommendations specifically for that female young protagonist who is out to prove herself to the world, please let me know down below. But also, if you just have a series that you would love for me to read or think that I will really like, please let me know down below. Let me know your top 3 maybe favorite series that are completed currently that you've read in the comments. I just want to chat. Like, I just told you and gushed about all my favorite books. Feel free to gush about all of your favorite books in the comments down below. And then if you'd like to just leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me... Let's do a flower emoji for the Poppy War. I don't know if there's an actual poppy, but just like a flower works. And then if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstore, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon,